All across the world, there's a common phenomenon that's taking place.
Choosing to be childless, that is what we're looking at today. Did you know more and more couples are rethinking parenthood?
South Korea already had the world's lowest birth rate, but this week, new data showed it had fallen further.
The number of children that people are having is actually decreasing around the world.
Think Japan, Korea, but also think Europe, the US, China, India. All over the world, people are not having babies. Not by a little bit, by a lot. And it's happening everywhere. Before you realize it, humanity is dying out. So what's happening and why is it a problem? Let's start off with the fertility rate. The fertility rate is basically a measure of how many children are born on average per woman. It's an indicative sense of per capita birth almost as a recurring trend. And so there's a statistic known as the replacement rate. What is the replacement rate? The replacement rate's the fertility rate at which populations remain stable. And so the fertility rate in the world is roughly calculated to be at about 2.1. If you think about it, that's effectively 2-ish kids per couple. And that's the number of kids you need to replace the mother and the father roughly. And the extra 0.1 accounts for mortality, it accounts for people that don't opt to have any kids at all or can't have kids. And so the rough math is that if the fertility rate's at replacement, all else being the same, then the population stays stable. And if the fertility rate falls below 2.1, it shrinks. And fertility rates all over the world are far below 2.1. They're at 1.8, 1.7, 1.5, 1.3 in some places. But why is it such a big deal? It's just people having half, maybe less. But it's a problem because compounded over a generation or two, the effects become super dramatic. When the fertility rate falls so low, you actually have what is now going to be a society of increasingly old people. I'm talking the mean age of 50, 55 plus. That's territory where progressively everyone you see around you on average is either older or just flat out old. That means people are sicker. They need a lot more help, a lot more care. They can't work. And there's a shrinking proportion of young, healthy working people that can get things done and also look after, take care of this increasing chunk of proportion in society. And those are just the economic, more physical manifestations of this. It's important to think about the cultural, societal level effects this has, right? The emotional effects this has. You're starting to come across a society where a lot of the social institutions that are built out no longer make sense. It doesn't make sense to have a school in every district when there's just not enough kids per class. Is college still as big of a thing? Is going out and playing in the yard a thing? Do people have even an understanding of the concept of cousins? Or when you're a single child, that's the son or daughter of a single child, that's the son or daughter of a single child, you can't really conceive the idea of an uncle or an aunt or an extended family or family reunion. Christmas is not as fun anymore. Diwali is not as fun anymore. And so those are some of the spillover effects that happen slowly, a bit faster, and then all of a sudden compound on the S-curve and just explode. Important to ask, why is this actually happening? And the number one theory is economic, which is that people don't have kids anymore because people can't afford to have kids anymore. Everywhere across the world, whether it's Turkey or Russia or the UK or India, there's a cost of living crisis. Things appear to be and feel to be more expensive and more catastrophic financially than they've ever been. Where buying a house used to be 4 or 5 times average annual income, it's now 20 or 30 times average annual income. Asset prices have now massively outpaced real wages. And so the net effect is people feel that they can't afford to have kids. As a result, they shouldn't have kids at all. And this is really important because this understanding is the formation through which all policies being made and all government initiatives are being set up to counter the collapsing birth rate. Subsidies for child rearing, making healthcare for pregnant mothers cheaper, providing tax cuts and tax relief and economic incentives. Except economic reasons and financial reasons are a very, very small part of why people aren't having kids anymore. Not just fewer kids or less kids, why people aren't choosing to have kids at all. And so what is the reason then, if it's not economics, why are we seeing this massive collapse? In my theory, is that it's not just money, and money is a very small part of it. I think it's the damn fucking phone. Universally across the board, we're talking developed countries, developing countries, first world, third world. This collapse has very uniquely triggered off and then really descended into a vicious cycle after 2008, 2010, which also perfectly coincides with the explosion of the smartphone. I think phones have done 2-3 things. I think the timing of the mobile phone has closely coincided with us entering this weird globalized post-scarcity world where people are not fighting for food and water on a day-to-day level, even if they're barely getting by. And so there's infinite comfort available every day. You're micro-fed dopamine on Instagram. You can watch endless AI slop on YouTube. You can order your weekly Mexican and it levitates to your door magically without any effort. And so the result is there's this very weird detachment from any kind of suffering or discomfort, which means a detachment from reality, which means a detachment from responsibility and an inability to map reality, which transforms into something called delayed onset adulthood. Syndrome where you're 29 and all you can care about is travel and needing to experience the world for yourself and making sure you have a core memory by attending Harry Styles' concert. Because you're drip-fed comfort and the world around you is designed to maximize profit by keeping you comfortable, you, even though you're officially an adult 28, still internally you're cosplaying this 21-year-old. And so at 31, you still feel like you're not ready to have kids. And this manifests into this weird version of never being ready. The prospect of having a child is the opposite of the spiritual rot of our lives, which is placing something ahead of you and above you, which is not optimizing for consumption, which is actively choosing years of sleepless night, of no travel, of the concept of being financially crippled by diapers. And that reality is not only hard and difficult and scary, but it's impossible to conceive when you're almost without your own volition, trapped in your own bed, doom scrolling because you can't do anything else, because the world has designed itself around you to leech off of your base physical instincts and make money off you. And all these things, sleepless nights and massive sacrifice and giving things up, all these things aren't that hard because before this century, people have done it for millennia. They have done it for all of time. Because back then, before the phone, people were still people who owned their own lives, who were just people in their limited identities, who were tied to community and who could feel the finiteness of their time. Not us, not us. We're in dopamine vortexes. We're removed from our own bodies, hypnotized into constant consumption that makes us see everything in the observable universe but our own internal selves. And so I think people aren't having babies because of that damn phone.